Good evening, my local drones. This is Bio Gundam here, and I'm back again for another video. So today, I'm going to be reviewing the anime known as Erased. So, let us begin. So when this anime first came out, it was greatly hyped, being praised as a masterpiece of mature and intricate writing. Does it live up to the hype of initial acclaim? In some areas, yes, but in others, not so much, due to it being very lacking in some very critical areas, the type of series that it is. So where did Erased, otherwise known as Bokudaki Gai Inai Machi, or translated, The Town Where Only I Am Missing, go wrong? The story of Erased centers around one Satoru Fujinuma, an amateur mangaka with the mysterious power to involuntarily send his mind back in time to a former version of himself mere moments before life-threatening incidents. However, Satoru carries with him a great regret, that of being unable to save 3 of his classmates from an unknown killer when he was just a kid. And one of these classmates, that is the show's initial focus, a young girl named Hinazuki Hayo, who was being abused by her mother, the visage of whom still haunts Satoru's mind. However, Satoru's past has a nasty habit of not staying put, and his mother is murdered, with him being implicated for the crime. His power triggers and sends him back in time of his youth, before the serial murders of his classmates ever took place. Armed with the knowledge and mental faculties of an adult, Satoru decides to lay plans to change the past and save those close to him from their fates, lest he is unable to return to his own time. So, what makes a good mystery? Is it the presence of the element of whodunit? Is it the realization that things aren't as they appear to be? Or is it the tension created when brushing up against something unknown and unseen? Of all these elements, the anime for Erased had a lot going for it. It had an intriguing mystery and a fun and engaging cat and mouse game between lead and unknown, but if not unseen, serial killer. However, there is just one problem. The identity of the killer is given away by the end of the first episode, and no amount of red herrings, misdirection, or mystery bait can undo the show blowing its load even before it gets going. This one detail serves to create a significant disconnect between viewer and lead, thus negatively affecting the way the events playing out are perceived, with the killer being accounted for and no longer being this unknown entity that's lurking in the shadows doing sinister things. All the show's efforts to create tension end up going to waste. Despite this issue, the actual investigation aspect of the show is very well done, one of its better and more interesting parts as a whole. Another prominent and recurring issue is Satoru's power, because of how it's used. Over the course of the story, his ability ends up feeling more like a plot contrivance and pocket deus ex machina for getting him out of troublesome situations, such as being apprehended by the police or drowning. In this way, that the show removes any tensional narrative stakes, as no matter how serious the danger Satoru is put in, it doesn't matter due to his power always having the potential to provide him a safe way out of it. Then there's the inclusion of the references to Akutagawa Ryunosuke's short story, The Spider's Thread, as a recurring motif in the story. Despite being added, it is not only not used to its full potential, but it's also implemented in such a way that it feels like someone persistently trying to push a jigsaw piece somewhere where it has no place being. What does a story about salvation and selfishness have to do with a serial killer? That is, aside from the inherent selfishness and amorality present in the minds of serial killers, that is, and the lead saving the aforementioned killer's would-be victims. While there's certainly a correlation, the show doesn't do much of anything with it, instead just letting it hang there like an old sofa in a freshly renovated apartment. Finally, there's the mixed bag that is the handling of the child abuse plot thread. The way in which the subject material is written is realistic, with the mother fittingly being unstable and getting into a self-destructive cycle that not only hurts her daughter, but also herself. However, the visual depiction of this is very over-stylized, using very dark colors and red filters during the abusive scenes, while giving the mother dark red eyes and a cartoonish, sinister smile. Surely there's a better way to portray this than hitting the viewer with a blood-soaked sledgehammer. Just like how some movies portray rape scenes, by just showing the act without any of this flashiness or music, just showing the raw act itself is enough to get the point across. Alternatively, have the act implied, as you can have the viewer use their imagination to picture, what could be going on. And, it could be even more fucked up, or you could have this thing where you imagine it's like, oh, what's this poor girl going through? Like, what is she going through? Why does she get all these scars and shit? But, that's enough about story. Time to move on to characters. Now, when it comes to characters, Satoru Fujinuma, a waste of a character indeed. For someone so interesting on paper, especially in regard to his external circumstances, he ended up terribly dull and boring to watch in practice. Only so much engagement you can get from a character with a personality disaffect disorder. However, some of his interactions with a couple side characters, as some of his monologues while trying to solve the mystery, are probably the most interesting and well-realized elements of the character, if not the show in general. In doing so, he succeeds in showing off a good level of intelligence and adaptability during his investigation, a commendable feat considering his being in a child's body in one time period and being hunted down by the police in the the other. The side characters as a whole are a mixed bag of standard and boring. The children, while pretty on point for their age, are just so unmemorable, and most of them just tend to blend in the background. The only memorable kid is the one that notices Satoru's change in demeanor due to his abrupt shift towards an adult mindset with an adult experience. So the rest of the kids soon catch on to. This is a pretty cool detail, adding some internal mechanics to the non-important characters and giving them a sense of personhood and narrative autonomy, while also remembering that there's indeed must be a disparity between past Satoru and present past Satoru, something which a lesser show may have neglected. The show's main villain was initially very promising. On paper, he's got a good level of presence and threat to him, as well as enough elements to make him a pretty good fit for his role in the story. However, aside from the aforementioned issue, his backstory constitutes a major problem. From what I've heard, the manga fleshes it out more and provides more of a reason for his actions, with him being abused as a kid, among other things, before a certain incident. But instead, in the anime, all we get is a backstory of the incident itself, that of him drowning a bunch of hamsters and taking care of the one hamster that lived, leading him to start seeing spider threads over people and being compelled to kill them. It's in this way that the show paints a very simple picture of him being a garden variety insane anime bad guy of the week, but with such an incomplete context of why he is like this or what made him like this, it's very hard to see why he became the serial killer he became. Now, when it comes to art, the art and animation in the show can't be given enough praise. It constantly has a good level of animation, backgrounds, use of setting and set pieces, and a great use of color, when it and the filters aren't being used to spoil the plot, that is. The character designs are also very nice, broadly being quite grounded and realistic. The kids look like real kids while contrasting the adults nicely. Now, when it comes to the sort of sound, the opening is quite nice to listen to and very enjoyable, being one of the aspects of the show that's most worth recommending to people. Although the OST is okay, there are a few parts that don't really fit with the tone of the show, for the most part, although it's a good soundtrack, all things considered. Not surprising, as it was done by Yuki Kajira, the person responsible for most of the Sword Art Online and Fate Zero soundtracks. The voice acting in the sub was okay, nothing to write home about, and likewise with the English dub. Now, the last thing which really necessitates mentioning is the sound effects. The sound heard throughout the show, such as that of boots stepping on snow and wood or that of shattering glass, are very realistic. While this detail is very small, the level of attention given towards it really serves to elevate the sense of environment and existence the show aims to craft. Now, when it comes to sort of like enjoyment and overall, if you're looking for a one-season hype fest to pass the time while bored, Erased isn't a bad show to watch. It's an okay ride for those with nothing better to do, and for better or for worse, will doubtlessly leave most people's minds after a week. Unless, of course, the unlikely time may come when you decide to review it several years after airing, thus necessitating a rewatch. Alternatively, if you look for a mystery thriller that's going to rock your world, you're not going to find it here. The show has very little to carry it, beside the premise and several other previously mentioned aspects. Furthermore, by the show's end, all you're left with is a tensionless conflict and a non-existent mystery due to the revelation of the identity of the killer in the first episode. Those who like psychological mystery thrillers will most likely not like or enjoy it, with it being recommended that they watch something like Monster, Death Note, or Shinshikai Yuri instead. This is the end of my review. Thank you for watching, and special thanks to my paid and actual money this time, editor Lonecrit, for his continuous assistance in this enterprise. But before I leave, I would like to do a special announcement. So my buddies Lonecrit, Young Kaiser, and CBF decided to make a podcast together, except they didn't add me. Feels bad, guys, but yeah, you should go check them out. They're known as the New Types. Link is in the description. They make very good podcasts and videos. If you're looking for incredibly autistic content, the New Types is the place to be. This is Bio Gundam, signing out.